introduce you to my group first of all before we start. So this is Carol, give them a wave, Jan, Vito, Bran and Sid. Now our case deals with corporate venture capital at ylly, and before I start with the actual case, we're going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to discuss. So first of all, we're going to give you a short introduction to ylly. Then we're going to discuss the differences between corporate venture capital and venture capital. And we're then going to go on to tell you whether we believe ylly should invest in protagonists and the reasons for doing so using Protagonists framework. We're then going to go on to tell you why they would choose a minority equity investment as opposed to an outright acquisition, and then we'll finish off with some concluding remarks and recommendations. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to start off by giving you a brief insight into ylly. Now, they're a US-based pharmaceutical company that was established in 1876, and their aim is to improve human longevity and quality of life around the world. Now, they do this, they've built up quite an impressive portfolio over the years, and they're established in biotechnology, medical devices, and of course in the healthcare field. Moving on to our case, however, it deals with corporate venture capital at ylly, and within the company there exists Lilly Ventures, and they seek innovative thinking and novel technologies, and their primary aim is to make equity investments in startup companies in order to pursue their strategic objectives. Now, again, given that one of their objectives is to pursue innovative and novel technologies, they've actually found that they can do so in relation to the Australian-based pharmaceutical company called Protagonist, who actually have come up with the kind of revolutionary technology that they're interested in. So I'm going to hand over to Vito now, who will explain a bit more.
Thank you very much, Zainab. Well, I will just continue on this. The reason for Lilly to invest in startup companies is because they would like to have some advantage gain. They are in the search for technological revolutions, as I have mentioned, innovative thinking and novel technologies. However, they don't invest in any areas of expertise. They just focus on drug discovery, emerging technologies, and possible treatments for medical purposes. What they do is that they go and look for companies, and they absorb or take some minority stake in those special companies. You may be wondering why they don't do it in their own company in ylly, and the reason is that going and looking for external startup small companies is because it may be cheaper, because they do not have to incur in some expensive administrative fees and expense. Also, they may be some more innovative because they are not used to see the things as the large companies may be. And also they may be more specialized in particular areas. Well, the structure of the company, as I have mentioned, is divided into two. One of the parts of ylly is Lilly Ventures, which is dedicated to the corporate venture capital, which is exactly what we have mentioned, just to go and invest in an additional company where you can have these technologies and the innovation searched. Also, I would like to explain why does it differ from regular CVCs. CVCs is not expectation for financial immediate gains. And additionally, since this is looking for some kind of syndicate investment, this may attract some other US investors, which in the end may be some investment, and but the investment of this fund management is not managed by a third-party company, but instead is managed exactly by ylly. Also, ylly can provide patronage, experience, knowledge, financial, and some physical and intangible assets to the startup companies. And additionally, with some collaborative agreements, they can also offer some research and development, marketing, sales and distribution support. So in general, ylly is more like a partner instead of like an investor. They can also be very active in the managing and the processing of the new discoveries. With all these strategies, ylly they can be working with startup companies even though they don't get to a final product. And this in the end helps Ellil because it can broaden and diversify the products of the company. With that, I will pass it on to Fran, who will elaborate more on the case of protagonist and investment.
Thank you, Vito. The second question we are answering is, should Eli Lilly invest in Protagonist? And if so, what is the rationale of the investment? What we've done is we've analyzed this by using Chesbro's 2002 framework. But in order to analyze this question more fully, first we have to consider that Eli Lilly should first see if Protagonist fits with Eli Lilly's overall strategy. According to the company itself, they state, "We need strategic alignment, but not identity with Eli Lilly's strategic development and research strategy," which means that any potential investment by Lilly Ventures must be a strategic fit with Eli Lilly first. Protagonist coincides with Lilly's overall goal, which states that Lilly Ventures focuses on the areas of operation within Eli Lilly, but selectively explores emergent technologies, including different approaches to Lilly's current business mix. However, Lilly is facing a number of problems. In Exhibit 1C, you can see that the company faces increasing cost of sales, R&D expenditure, and long-term debt, whereas they're also experiencing decreasing net income as a percentage of sales, return on shareholders' equity, and a return on assets over the last 4 years. Thus, due to these problems, we believe Protagonist will be a viable fit for Eli Lilly for the following reasons. Eli Lilly should take an enabling strategy with Chesbro by using Chesbro's 2002 framework, which states that a company makes investments primarily for strategy reasons, but does not couple the venture tightly with its own operations. In the case of Protagonist, it will be a complementary technological fit with Eli Lilly, because it will give the firm explorative benefits of new technology, and their software will reduce the R&D cost of Lilly will reduce the R&D cost of Lilly. It is also a strategic fit, which, as you can see from the previous slide, this will allow Lilly to meet its overall goal to get strategic technological gains in the early stages of biotechnological startups, as well as decrease the time to market of its drugs. Thus, overall, through the enabling strategy, Lilly will gain the benefits of investing in a small, possibly more innovative firm such as Protagonist, through benefits such as complementary technology, and it will also be allowed to avoid the risk of an acquisition of a biotechnology company that has yet to put out a product. And now Sid will talk to you.
Thank you, Fran. Now our question 3 is about why did Eli Lilly consider a minority equity in investment in Protagonist? Next slide, please. Now this tabular framework is taken from the paper which was referred to us by Kale and Purnam, which mentions some key questions about the key questions which tells us whether the company should invest, how much company should invest in the equity of another company. Now, some of these questions are there any benefits from excluding rivals? If the answer to the question is yes, then in general sense, we need a high equity share, but in our case, it's no, because it's too early right now and the results are yet to be seen. The second question tells us about the need for relationship-specific investment. Again, if the answer is yes, there is a need of high equity, but again, in our case, it's a no, because they are not shifting their whole setup from Australia to America. They're just opening a corporate office in America, so they don't require that much amount of investment. Now, the third question states the extensive knowledge and sharing and coordination. The answer is yes to this question. So in general sense, it's a high. There should be a high equity stake. But again, in our case, it's a no, because they are mainly trying to avoid a potential loss from transferring technology from protagonist ecosystem. Now I will hand over it to Carol. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. As you can see from the framework, apart from the benefit criteria, we also have some cost criteria, which includes market uncertainty, technology uncertainty, and motivation uncertainty. The manager of the focal firm will consider all the equity levels suggested by all the cost criteria and pick up the lowest equity level the criteria suggest. In other words, if there is high uncertainty regarding to the market or the variability of the technology, or if the employee have a low motivation to change their working condition after the partnership, then the cost of having ownership in the target firm is high, and the equity level should be low. In our specific case, protagonist platform has a high potential in the long run, but currently their platform is still in their initial stage, which Ellil Venture consider have a low valuation have a low valuation, which can assistant with high risk and lack of liquidity in 5 to 7 years. Additionally, because the vision of protagonist is to remain independent in their research, and most of its infrastructure are in Australia, so it will be costly to move their platform from Australia to America, which also imply of high cost of low employee motivation. So to sum up, due to the high market uncertainty and the technology uncertainty and the high cost of employee low motivation, then Ellil Venture will only consider to have minority equity in protagonist. Now pass on to Yang.
Thank you, Carol. As we have seen, there are multiple variables to consider before reaching a conclusion as to whether or not LV should invest in protagonist and under which premise. Considering CVC's differences from venture capital investors, LV's intended strategy, as well as Chespel's framework, we have come to the conclusion that LV should promote an enabling strategy for protagonists and seek to help them to develop their technology for the rational drug design, mainly by provision of capital and to less extent by their organizational capability. The promise of the rational drug design and its potential contribution to the industry as a whole cannot be underestimated in the capital and knowledge-intensive field of pharmaceuticals. The shortened time frame and cost reduction of R&D stand to benefit all participants, and perhaps especially Eli Lilly. Its strategic fit is therefore the main argument, combined with the promise of first-mover advantages. You might ask why LV shouldn't acquire Protagonist as a whole and integrate it into Eli Lilly. Well, there are several reasons for that. First of all, it is not something Protagonist desires, and secondly, their current development stage leaves a lot of risk before any potential gains might be achieved. Another argument is that much of its innovative capability, as well as technological know-how, is embedded in its current organizational structure, and some of these qualities might erode if forced to move or change to succumb to ownership. However, we do suggest that Eli Lilly might look into acquiring the firm at a later stage of its development, if the technological capability proves to be a success and protagonists change their mentality regarding a sale. If these two criteria are met, the minor equity investment it now should commit to might make this hypothetical acquisition easier at a later period of time, given that it by then should have been able to create a relationship with protagonists and gain some insight into how the firm operates, which we believe might ease integration and lessen the risk associated with mergers and acquisitions. We hope you have found our presentation interesting, and we thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
14 minutes, like 14 and a half minutes.